So what you've seen as you've explored the last few slides is that when we change those numbers within the absolute value function, things move around. Things get skinnier or wider, they go upside down or right side up, they shift to the left or the right, and those things are called transformations. And that's a big concept throughout geometry and then into Algebra 2 and pre-calculus and so on. Our basic absolute value function I mentioned earlier is f of x equals the absolute value of x. How we label these transformations and we refer to them is we call the number that we put in front of the absolute value sign a, the number that's inside the absolute value with the x, we call that h, and the number outside we call k. I want to draw your attention, this is a lot like a formula that we had, the point slope formula, y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. It looks a lot similar to that the point slope formula, and we're going to talk about that more in the next unit as well. But basically, here's what happens to summarize all of these things. If that a value, the number in front of the absolute value, is positive, the function is going to open up or down. It's going to open up. If it's negative, it's going to open upside down. It's going to open like that. If that a gets bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger than 1, it's going to be a skinnier function. If it's a number between 0 and 1, like a third or 0.275, it's going to be a wider function. The h, the number that's inside the absolute value symbol, that number is going to move the function left or right. So it's going to move what we call the vertex, that turning point. It's going to move it to the left or to the right. But it's going to move it in the opposite direction you could think of, and that's because of that minus sign that's built into the formula. So if it's let's say an absolute value of x minus 2, it's going to move it 2 to the right. It's going to move it a positive 2. If it's an absolute value of x plus 2, it would move it 2 to the left. That would mean it would be the absolute value of x minus negative 2, which would move it 2 to the left. Okay, so it's kind of a weird thing, and that only happens with the x value. That k at the end is going to move it, that vertex, and actually every point on that absolute value, it's going to move it up or down by that number. Okay, so we have these transformations, and we can tell exactly what's going to happen with our absolute value by looking at it. So here's an example. If I gave you y equals 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 minus 1. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that vertex, that h comma k. That's the turning point. It's where it goes from facing one way to facing the other way. In this case, it would be at negative 3 comma negative 1. So I'm going to go to the point negative 3, negative 1, which on my graph would be right where I wrote the function right there. And I'm going to think about what does this function look like. Well, the a in front is positive, which means it's going to be opening up. And then what I'm going to do is kind of look at it like the slope of a line. From that vertex, I'm going to go up 2 and over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. But then also starting at that vertex, I'm going to go up 2 over 1 to the left. And there is my absolute value function. So again, we find that vertex, this point, and then think about the slope of it, how wide it's going to be based on that coefficient. Let's do one more and then we'll be done. Okay, so for this one, again, I'm going to look for the vertex. The vertex is my h comma k. In this case, it would be 3 comma 2. Again, I'm looking at the opposite sign of this thing, and then whatever that sign is, whatever that number is. I'm going to go to 3, 2, over 3, up 2, put my point there, that is my vertex. Next thing I'll check is I'm going to look at the coefficient. I'm going to look at the a value. My a is negative 1/2. The negative tells me my absolute value should be opening upside down. But what I'm going to do is from that point, from that vertex point, I'm going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. But then also I'm going to go the other direction, down 1 over 2 to the left, 2 to the left, 2 to the left, 2 to the left, and there is my absolute value function. And that is what we're going to practice today. So finish up this Desmos, and we'll see you soon.